Alright, so I'm going to continue looking at volume today. We've already started this looking at the volume of a cuboid. Okay, we started off by saying what the volume is. It's the amount of 3D space that something takes up, or it's the kind of the amount that something can hold, so how much maybe liquid you can put into something. For cuboids, the formula was straightforward enough. It was just length by width by height, or else length by depth by height, or length by breadth by height. You'll see it, or hear it said slightly different in different places. But it's the three dimensions in the cuboid multiplied by each other. So this one here, 3, 9, and 1.5, multiplied them together, got the volume 40.5 centimeters cubed. What I'm going to move on to today is the volume of a cylinder. Alright, volume of a cylinder is that little bit trickier. Alright, so there's this formula here to get the volume of a cylinder, pi r squared h. So pi is that Greek letter that is just short for the number 3.14159, and it goes on forever, that we encountered when we were looking at the perimeter and the area of a circle. So pi multiplied by the radius squared multiplied by the height. You might recognize pi r squared, that's the formula for the area of a circle, and now we're just multiplying it by the height of the cylinder. Alright, that length by width by height to get the volume of a cuboid or a cube, you need to know that. Okay, so you won't be given that in exam, you need to learn that off or know how to do that. For this one here, this pi r squared h, it's on page 10 of the log tables that you have in your exam. Alright, so this book here, you should have one of those, and you will be given kind of a clean copy in your actual junior cert exam. And here we see a cylinder, V for volume equals pi r squared h. So we don't need to learn this formula, we need to know where to find it, and we need to know how to use it. Alright, so a cylinder, just because my drawings maybe aren't the best, is something like this. Okay, so a tin can is a cylinder. Alright, so like circle at the top, circle at the bottom, curved outside then. Alright, so it's a 3D shape, circle at the top, circle at the bottom, curved around the outside there. Tin can would be your classic example of a cylinder. Okay, and as we said, volume is pi r squared h. Just like when we're doing the circle, there's a few different values we can be asked to sub in for pi. Alright, so I've got 4 examples here, and I will use each possible thing that I might have to sub in for pi. And then just the question here says up the top, find the volume of these cylinders, give answers to 1 decimal place. So if I have to round off, it tells me to round off to 1 decimal place. Exam question should always tell you how many decimal places it wants you to round off to. Alright, so this first one here, find the volume of this cylinder. So volume of a cylinder, first thing I do is write down the formula. Alright, so as I said, this is on page 10 of the log tables. Volume equals pi r squared h. In this question, I am told to use pi equals 3.14. So that's what I will do. So it's 3.14 multiplied by r squared, so the radius squared. The radius is marked in down here on this diagram on the bottom circle as being 3. So it's multiplied by 3 squared multiplied by the height is marked in as 8. Alright, so the radius is marked in on the bottom circle, so 3 squared, and the height is marked in on the side there. So I just put this into my calculator. So 3.14 multiplied by 3 squared multiplied by 8. And it gives me 226 and 2 over 25. Remember it said 1 decimal place, let's just press change, or else if you're on the Casio calculator, it would be the SD button that's here. But change, and it's 226.08. So let's just write that first. So to 1 decimal place, so I'm rounding it off to 1 decimal place. So after that 1 decimal place is 8. 8 tells you to round up. So your answer is going to be 226.1. I haven't marked it in here, but let's just say these are all in centimeters. Well, then my answer would be in centimeters cubed. Okay, so volume is always in centimeters cubed. Okay, lengths are in centimeters, area is in centimeters squared, volume is in centimeters cubed. Okay, so the volume of this cylinder is 226.1 centimeters cubed. All right. Next question then. So again, it's volume of a cylinder, exact same thing, only I'm told to just use the pi button on my calculator here instead of using 3.14. Okay, but I'm getting the volume of this cylinder, so let's put the formula down. Volume equals pi r squared h. So there'll be marks going probably for writing the formula down. There'll definitely be marks going for writing the formula and subbing anything into it correctly. So even if we didn't get the correct final answer here, if we have this formula down and we're subbing something into it right, we're going to get loads of attempt marks. Okay, so show your work as much as possible. I don't want to just see the answer written down. So your answers here should have 3 or 4 lines to them. Okay. Anyway, so volume is pi r squared h. So use the pi button on the calculator. So we'll just write pi here. So pi multiplied by r squared. So the radius is marked in on the top circle here as being 5. So 5 squared multiplied by 16 is the height. All right. So I'll just type that into my calculator. Pi button is up here on the sharp one. So pi multiplied by 5 squared multiplied by 16, and that's equal to, it says 400 pi, so let's just press change, and there I've got 1256.63. And then it says 1 decimal place, so 63. What's after the 6 is 3. 3 tells you to round down, so 1256.6. Again, I'll just put in the centimeters now. So centimeters cubed for your volume. All right. So just one thing to say here. I haven't put on any of these examples, but you'll remember back on area and perimeter of the circle. Sometimes they give you the diameter of the circle, and you need to remember that you'd half that to get the radius. Just watch out for that on some questions. They might kind of give you the diameter instead of the radius that you need, and you'll just need to half it when you're using the formula. Next one then, so I'm getting the volume of this again, so let's write the volume formula. So the volume equals pi r squared h. So that's equal to, I'm told here to use 22/7 instead of pi. So that's the third thing I can be asked to use instead of pi. So the fraction 22/7 multiplied by the radius squared. So the radius is down here, it's 7, multiplied by h, the height is 10. All right, so if I put that into my calculator, 22/7 multiplied by 7 squared multiplied by 10 is 1540. So it was a whole number, so I don't need to round it off to 1 decimal place. So 1540 centimeters cubed. All right. One thing to watch out for, it's the radius that gets squared. So it's the 7 is squared here, the 10 isn't squared. Okay, pi isn't squared either. So it is only the radius that you square. Okay, that's just a little mistake that people make sometimes. So pi multiplied by the radius squared, and that's the only thing you square, multiplied by h. So just make sure you get the h and the r right, the right way around. So radius is in the circle, the height then will be marked on the side there. This one here then, I'm told to give my answer in terms of pi. So that just means I want pi in my answer. I'm actually not going to sub in for it. All right, so I want something pi as my answer, so that's what in terms of pi means. Okay, so I'd say I've given these kind of in order of what I'd say 3.14 is the most common one. Then sometimes you'd be asked to use the pi button. Very sometimes, occasionally you'd be asked to use 22/7. And occasionally then you'd be asked to give it in terms of pi. But I'd say this is the most common that you'd be typing in 3.14. But we need to know how to do all of them. So anyway, it's the volume of the cylinder again. So volume equals pi or squared h. So that's equal to, so I'm not going to sub anything in for pi here. So multiplied by or squared. So or is marked up here, it's 20. So it'll be marked in on the circle. And then my height here is 6. So just 20 squared multiplied by 6. So I'm not actually going to sub anything in for pi here. So just 20 squared multiplied by 6. And it's 2,400. So my answer will be 2,400 pi. All right. And we'll assume again, yeah, we'll just put in centimeters now. So centimeters cubed. So in terms of pi means you don't put anything in for pi, just multiply those two by each other, and then it will be that pi. All right. But as I said again, I would say this one and this one, probably the more common ones you'd be doing. You'd be subbing in 3.14, or you'd be putting in the pi button. All right. If an exam question ever doesn't tell you which one to use, you can sub anything in. Okay, so use 3.14 or use the pi button. It'll probably then tell you to round off to a certain number of decimal places. But if they don't tell you what value of pi to use, it's up to you. So if you remember 3.14, if you don't remember it, just the pi button on the calculator is there for you to use always. Okay, so volume of a cylinder, again, you don't need to learn that formula. It's on page 10. You just need to be able to use it. All right, so pi or squared h. There's 4 examples. As I said, I think these 2 are the more important ones to get. These are probably the more common way to ask the questions, but you need to be able to deal with these ones as well.